Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, Tim, the Powerful Man Matthews. What's going down, brother?
Yeah, you caught me off guard then. I was snacking on a few cashew nuts.
I know. I'm on a tight schedule here, buddy. So I want to make sure we rock and roll and get this out there because I think it's an important topic that's come up many, many times. The topic I want to bring to the table is about hiding it from your wife. And what I want to talk about is we've had this happen with several guys, more guys, probably, I don't know about more guys than not, but I know a lot of guys that do this is they hide things from their wife because they don't want their wife to know. Yep. Now, some of these guys, and of course, this would not be me, Tim, but some of these guys hide money, right? They hide their bonus checks. They hide commissions. They hide cash.
Yep.
And what they'll do is they'll take the money and they'll squirrel it away. Now, especially when times are hard between the couple, right? But guys that I know will do this so they have more play money. So I have one guy in particular who's a great friend of mine, and we used to do a guys trip every year. And what he would do is he'd always have a load of cash. Always have a load of cash. I mean, a load, a lot of money. And he would talk about it. He's like, yep, this is my bonus from this month, this. And he would have his company pay out, right? His bookkeeper pay out these bonuses, these commissions into another account that his wife didn't know about.
Wow.
So he could just cash it out, or he would just ask for cash. And, you know, in fact, I got a call from this guy 2 weeks ago. Doug, we're going to Mexico next week. I got a load of cash, basically. It's the same scenario. It's been going on for a long time, almost 20 years. I'll pay for your plane ticket. We're leaving. You gotta come. It's going to be so much fun. And I said, no, I had nothing ethically against him putting away cash. But this also happens, I know I did this when Aaron and I were going through a hard time in our marriage, is I started stowing away cash. Right? Okay, what's going to happen here? And hiding things. But another thing, Tim, that a lot of guys do, and we'll talk about the cash thing again, we'll come back to it. They hide behaviors. They hide that they're watching porn. They hide that, they're masturbating. They hide that they're drinking, right? They start drinking subtly, or putting it in mixed drinks or things like that, or they don't tell their wife how much they're drinking. They hide it. Or they hide the fact that they're getting high. Marijuana is legal in most states now in the United States. So maybe they're chewing on a cookie or a gummy, or something like that. They're smoking a little bit. Or they go into the bathroom to smoke. And they just don't want their partner to know about that. The other thing guys hide is conversations with other women. Learning with other women. So those are the big things. So let's talk a little bit about that today, of guys hiding things and what exactly they're hiding, but more importantly, why are they hiding?
Yeah, interesting. We were as the advisory team yesterday. We were reviewing a breakdown of one of the trainings that we've done, and what came up on the training was one of the men who had said that marriage wasn't great, been going downhill for 13 years. Naturally, the advisors asked, wow, it must be tough. What toll has that taken on you? Or the intimacy. Well, we're not having any intimacy and been no sex for a few years. Wow, how are you dealing with that? Well, I'm watching porn. Okay. Does your wife know? And it kept unraveling. But he said, well, I don't think we'll get divorced if things don't change. I'll just stick it out because, we love each other and I believe in the matrimonial marriage. And
yeah.
And I was thinking, well, what's to say your wife is going to stick it out? How would she feel if she knew that you were watching porn? How do you feel when you come back in from watching porn and you go up to her and you try and engage with her after just going outside of the relationship in order to get your needs met, because obviously you're just avoiding doing the work that gets to go on there in order for them to have the connection. And on a side note, every time this guy then watches porn and gets off to it, it takes away his edge to be able to actually deal with the challenge, to turn this around, right? So I think this is a big problem. I think it's a big lie that a lot of, and I've watched porn in the past. I'm not going to pretend that I've not. Of course I have. And I think because let's say we watch it as guys when we're maybe young and we're growing up and it's kind of innocent and so on. If it then shows up in a relationship, I think it can be sometimes easy to just pretend to ourselves or deny the real impact of hiding that from the person we're in the relationship with.
Well, I think that's the difference here, right? We're not talking about porn, at least I'm not, porn being bad. I have no problem with porn personally. I know people are going to have religious and ethical issues with porn, and I don't. So, depending, certain kinds, obviously, maybe not obviously, but I don't have an issue with that at all. The point to me that I want to bring to the table really with this topic is, why are you hiding it?
Yep.
It's the shame, right? If you're drinking too much, you're drinking too much, right? You don't, if you're smoking weed too much, you're smoking weed. It's the shame. The reason you're hiding it is because you're shameful about the behavior. That leads to a lot of problems, because when there's shame around it, it's going to cause, those problems are going to show up in your marriage. They're going to show up at work. They're going to show up in your performance, and it's going to lead to other things to mask that pain and shame, right? Or something else happens, like gambling's another one a lot of guys hide, by the way, that I've seen happen quite a bit. That's gonna hide. That's gonna mask. And then what happens for a lot of us guys is like, okay, great. Well, I can't tell my wife about how much I'm drinking. So, but this girl at the bar or this girl I know at work, she drinks a lot. That's acceptable with her, right?
Yeah.
Or porn, right? I can't hide it. So I'll go watch porn in the car on my phone, right? Or that's going to lead to, now I'm super horny. And we've had guys come through the program that admitted picking up prostitutes or escorts. It escalates. It's the shame portion of it that really causes this, in my opinion. Obviously, I'm not a professional on addiction behavior or anything along those lines. I've learned a lot about it in my coaching career, but it's the shame that is really the big issue here. And that's where it becomes a slippery slope for a lot of men.
For sure, and again, I keep thinking about this guy in particular because he brushed it off as it wasn't an issue, because he didn't, if he was to really accept the real gravity of it, the shame would weigh too heavily, right? And that's why we asked him, hey, did your wife know you watch porn? He's like, no. What'd she say if she found out?
Yeah.
Chances are she's not going to be happy.
No. Well, I mean, she's not going to be happy. That's an issue, right? And that's one thing. But I think it's the deceit, right? That builds up. We talk about, one of the things we teach the guys in some more of the advanced classes and things we did. We have a class for the guys in the Brotherhood and the Inner Circle, which are high-end mastermind groups after guys have graduated some of the other programs. There's one course on sexual mastery. One of the things we talk about with sexual mastery is what most men don't realize is, for women and men, but mostly women, it's the intimacy portion, right? Every guy knows that. They hear it. But how do you get it? Well, what I want you guys to imagine right now is your wife standing in front of you. Let's just say she's 6 inches from you. I don't know what that is in centimeters. Tim, help me out here. But half a foot. So what is that?
6 inches, about 10 centimeters.
So 10 centimeters, guys. 6 inches, 10 centimeters, somewhere in that ballpark. The measure doesn't matter. She's close to you.
15.
Now, all of a sudden, I put a glass wall between you guys. Okay. Now there's a glass wall sliding. You can look at her, and you just can't touch her, but you can see her. She's beautiful, etc. Now you have a lie about hiding some money. Okay. Every time you lie or you're deceitful, you got to smear some dirt, some mud on that glass, right? You can still see her, but it's getting a little dirty. Now you have another lie about hiding money. A little bit more in there. You have a lie about porn, deceit, and shame, or you're smoking weed, and then hanging out with the family and she doesn't know. It's more dirt. What happens, guys, is this adds up each and every time. And now you're standing in front of what appears to be just a smudged, dirty window. You can't see your wife on the other side. and she can't see you. You're craving that love, that connection, that respect, but the glass between you guys is so muddy. There's no way for there to be any intimacy, any real intimacy, right? You can have masturbatory sex with her, but a real connected intimacy is really difficult on a consistent basis when that glass gets so smudged. And this is what happens when, guys are hiding something from their wives.
And they become very on edge as well, right? This is when they tend to become they're more likely to be more reactive because they got to hide those lies.
Yeah.
You got to cover your trails. You got to, clear your history. You've got to. So then if she starts to say certain things, you become very defensive. And before you know it, you fall into the trap of being deer. We've spoken about deer versus wolf in the past.
Yeah.
Which then does what? Pushes you guys further away. So there's a very slippery slope that goes on from this simple act of hiding.
I agree. Yeah. And I think, it's different from a surprise. So we do transparently, we have several guys who will come, a lot of guys that come through the program, but don't want their wife to know that they're doing the program. And they're not hiding it from her because they're embarrassed or ashamed. They're doing it because they want their wife to genuinely see the changes that they're making. Some guys will mail in cash, right, for the payment of the program. Some guys will write a check. Some guys do different things, right? All of those guys come clean with it, though. Every single one of them. And every guy I can think of that's done that, their wife has wanted them to stay in the program. Like, whoa, this is what happened. Do more of it, right? Because they've done a 180 in their relationship. That's a little different with the surprise element, or if you're going to surprise her on vacation or a trip or a treat. What we're talking about here are things you're ashamed of, things you're not proud of, things you don't want her to find out because you're ashamed. You're worried about the reaction she's going to give you.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the point, isn't it? If you carry that shame with you everywhere you go. This is part of the reason why it leads to escalates, like you said a moment ago. Because again, you walk into the office, right? You try and, act like you're the leader, and everyone's coming to you for advice and looking at you as the guy that is the standard. But we've had this before, that you might be secretly sneaking off to the bathroom on a break just so you can watch porn. Because maybe there's a girl in the office that you really like, because you're not channeling, you're hiding it from your wife, so that there's distance that's growing between you guys. The mud on the glass is getting thicker and thicker. You can no longer see one another. You start sleeping in separate rooms, maybe going to bed at different times. And then you go into the office and there's that girl there, the new girl who's just started, and she's showing interest in you. And, you feel that energy start to rise up, sneaking off to the toilet, watching the porn, trying to release it and distract. So the point is, when you then go in through the door on an evening and return home to your family, well, how do you deal with that? Well, I'm going to have to pour myself a drink. Because there's that lie that you just want it to get it off your chest. It doesn't feel good to carry around the lie, does it? It feels, it doesn't feel good for anybody. It feels heavy. It feels like a wet blanket that you're carrying around everywhere. And everywhere you go, it just weighs you down. So you walk into the door in an evening, and how do you deal with it? Well, I'm going to pour myself a drink, pour myself another drink, pour myself, I might have a cocktail now. And as days goes by, as weeks go by, it gets a little bit stronger. There's a cocktail. One cocktail turns to two. And then you might be starting to, sneak out for a joint, like you said. And it all started maybe a year or two prior when you just started to watch porn instead of reaching out for your wife. Just that one time. That was easy. I didn't get rejected that time. That was easy. I didn't have to have that tough conversation about really what I want in this relationship. And 2 years later, you're in this position.
But you want to be in that position where you can be opaque and open. And that's part of leadership, right? It's part of leadership of yourself, but also leadership in your relationship, guys. And the reason we don't share as men, and look, I've been here, so I get it. The reason we don't share is because we're judging ourselves. right? And we're so reliant on our spouse in this case for filling us up for what we're going to get in the relationship that we start to really focus on our needs getting met by them. Now we just become another kid. We become another needy child for your wife. And that's not a good place, man. Nobody wants to be there.
No, not at all. I can remember one of the most freest, if that's a word, times of my life was when I went through that period many years ago. I just came clean. I just got the skeletons out of the closet on many different areas of my life. And it just felt so great just to not have anything in there that anyone could point at. You know? Sure, it was a bit scary at first, but nevertheless, it felt great. And ever since then, I've done my best to always keep them out of the closet. You know, because you feel so light. Honesty is just such a great tool. Does that mean that there's never any glass that gets on any mud that gets on the glass between Amelia and I? Yeah, of course there is. I'm aware that some mud gets on there from time to time, and I know it's there because the connection's a little bit murkier. I'm not seeing her as well. I'm holding back from her because I'm just hiding something from her. I've got to get that mud off the glass because it's a slippery slope. And at first it can be scary, you know, it really can. So on that note, Doug, I think, how would you suggest the guys have a conversation? Let's say they're going to come clean with something in the relationship, whatever it is, right? How do you suggest they're able to have that conversation in a way whereby they can start to get that mud off the glass?
It's a great question. Well, and we do something called the clean slate method, right? That's by far the best way. But short of that, short of going through, a clean slate, which I think we talk about parts of the clean slate method in previous podcasts. I can't remember. Yep. I show up. So what you want to do is first of all, get really clear with what's going on and why you're doing it. Okay. So figure out why it is you're doing it. If it's porn, if it's hiding money. So I'm going to use the hiding money example, right? Money's a touchy subject for a lot of people. So I'll use that one. So if you've been squirreling away some cash, maybe it's cash to party, maybe it's cash for drugs, maybe it's cash because you're worried that if you're in a divorce, you want to have some money set aside that she doesn't know about, right? That she can't take half of it or whatever. I've definitely heard guys talk about that. So if that's the case and you figured out, okay, the reason I've done this, I've squirreled this money away because I'm scared. So I'm scared about that my wife will reject me. I'm scared that I won't be loved, right? That's what rejection really is. Mm-hmm. Then I would sit down with my wife and say, hey, look, I got something I got to tell you about. I've been really scared. I've been really scared that you're going to leave me. And what I did is I found myself starting to hide money and put it away. And I don't want to live like that. That's not the kind of relationship I want. And it's not what I want to do. I'm sorry that I did this. If you're sorry, I never want to put you in a position where you can't trust me. And then I would go around that. Like that's an example. It's not a great example off the cuff because there is actually a formula for this that we go through and we take the guys through. It's a much longer conversation than we have in this podcast.
Yeah, but I think that's a great point, to break it down. One, why are you doing it? Two, when you then have the conversation, it's, hey, here's what I'm doing. Here's why I'm doing it. And I don't want you to feel X. That's not my intention. Like, you matter to me. The relationship matters to me. However you want to say it without necessarily saying it. And,
And what I want is.
Yeah, what I want is. And you might get a reaction.
Well,
she may be angry. She may be, whatever might come of it. But you're going to feel so much better on the other side of having the conversation. It's up to you guys how deep you want to go with what you've been doing. Whether you want to say I've been stashing away $1 million or whether you want to say I've been stashing away some cash. It's up to you on the depth of it. But if you're listening to this and this is resonating with you, I would strongly recommend and invite you to start having some of these conversations and wiping that mud off the glass. Because my bet for you as you start wiping that mud off the glass and you start to see her again on the other side, you're going to feel differently about her as well. And those behaviors that you were doing before that were causing you to feel so heavy and stressed, they're going to start to go away and you're going to feel much better, which by default is going to help you to feel much better and not do those behaviors. And the cycle starts working for you instead of against you.
Yep. 100%. Right. And guys, just think of it this way. Think of a friendship, right? Would you rather have a friend who on the outside, everything appears really good, but is lying to you? Or would you rather have a friend who's flawed, but is honest with you? And it's a no-brainer, right? It's a stupid question, so to speak. And it's stupid because you know the answer, and your wife wants the same thing, and so do you. You know, and what I think happens often, Tim, is when guys come clean, the wife then creates a space for the wife to come clean. And she might be like, yes. "Oh yeah, well, guess what I've been doing," and not from a place of like, "I'll show you," although that happens. But it creates a space where she can now be honest. Good chance she knows, guys. By the way, good chance she knows, or at least suspects it. You know, in my experience, women are very crafty and guys aren't as good at hiding things as they think they are. She may just be letting you think that she doesn't know. So, gentlemen, as always, take action. If you get insight or anything here, we want you to take action. As much as I love hanging out with Tim during this time, Tim and I both do this for you, right? We do this for you guys, so you get the opportunity as well. And of course, as you guys know, if you listen to the previous episode, we switched out the free training. We're going to do it every month. So go over to thepowerfulman.com/bonus and get the new training. Trainings will only be up there for the month. So guys, I apologize if you're listening to this in April, May, or even another year from now, that training will not be available anymore, but we'll have something different and new up for you. We produce over 20 pieces of new content every single week. So if you're not digesting that, if you enjoy this and you want more, make sure you get on that email list. We do send out a community email now once a week on Fridays, just giving you a wrap up of some of the things that are going on. It's a wrap up from our private membership group, but also a wrap up from our forward facing stuff that we have on Facebook, LinkedIn, also our emails, and then also this podcast as well in the show. So look forward to some exciting things also on YouTube, gentlemen. And we want to make sure you guys get that access to that. As always, guys, have an amazing week, and we'll see you next time on The Powerful Man Show.